If the entrance to Bellefontaine had been the gateway to a new world, how could Orlando explain this feeling as he climbed down the airplane's wobbly steps to the tarmac in Puerto Rico? He was home. Not the home he grew up in, but in this other older place. Can a person be from two places at once? Everything up north had its equivalent here, south. The humid air took the place of the wool coats he and Linus had draped over their arms. Bradley Airport was traded in for Luis Muñoz Marin. The plants had their counterparts too. The coconut palm replaced the maple, the ceiba replaced the oak, and the morivivi replaced the myrtle he loved. Same for the animals. For the squirrel, here were tree lizards, and for the chickadee, the reinita. Throughout his childhood, he had listened to the stories that held the answers to the who, what, when, where, why of his family. He was so curious about it that one year his parents had sent him to Naranjito to spend an entire summer with his grandmother. He would wash himself using a metal palangana set on the floor of the cement room they called the bathroom. The only thing that made it a bathroom was the faucet sticking out of the wall, cold water only, and the drain. The toilet was not a regular toilet, but an outhouse. Inside was a wooden bench with a hole cut out on top, and cute lizards watching you do your business. Every morning, he and Abuela Maria had sweet hot coffee boiled and strained through a strange-looking sock into the hot milk, then poured into blue and white speckled tin cups. They each dropped cubes of fresh white cheese into the cups where it melted, and they ate it, gooey and delicious, with a spoon. As soon as they were done, they would walk to the plaza in the center of the town to attend the first Mass of the day and pray for Abuelo, who was in heaven. Now his abuelita was buried in the town cemetery, in the same plot as his grandfather. Come to think of it, the entire trip to the island had come out of the blue. Linus could be funny that way, generous one minute and stingy the next. There had only been a couple of days to pack and get in touch with Eric, who had volunteered to meet them at the airport. So, when Orlando saw him waiting by the gate in a tank top, cut-off jeans, and even longer hair, his stomach did a flip, and he had hesitated between a handshake and a hug, but Eric grabbed him and said, "Bienvenido, Lando Calrissian." "Eric!" They both laughed. Eric locked Orlando in a bear hug while Linus watched, holding his carry-on travel bag with both hands. Eric smiled at him the same friendly way, but his hug was for Orlando. "We're blocking traffic here," Orlando said. "You are," Linus agreed, and Eric released Orlando so that other passengers could get by. Orlando glanced at Linus to see if he thought they had been holding each other too long. Linus was all business. He shook Eric's hand and thanked him for the ride to the retreat house. "But if it's too much trouble, I'm sure we can find a taxi." "No way, you're my guests," Eric protested. "Right this way, señores." He swept his hand. "Your chariot awaits." Once the luggage had been plucked from the carousel, Orlando rushed everyone toward the exit. Sensing how clumsy Linus and Eric were with each other, stood in between them as much as possible, hoping to keep things calm. This tactic didn't work. Eric had hoped to have lunch along the way, but Linus wanted to get to the retreat house as fast as possible. There was another moment of struggle when they got to the parking lot, and it became obvious that someone would have to sit in the back seat of Eric's Toyota. "I'll sit in the back," said Linus. Orlando told him. "You know how you get nauseous. Sit in the front." They went back and forth at it, Eric tapping the keys against the steering wheel until Linus won. On the narrow roads winding higher and higher, Linus got carsick, and Eric had to pull over for Orlando and Linus to swap places. Things got better once they had reached their destination and made plans to see each other the following week in the capital. Linus cheered up and waved as Eric drove off. "I'm looking forward to this," Linus said. Las Almas retreat house was in the mountains, deep in the center of the island, and its square white cement buildings spilled out like sugar cubes over the coffee-colored soil. For the next week, they were supposed to immerse themselves in Lenten prayer and reflection. It was popular with North American religious, people from places where it snowed a lot. Francois Dobbs recommended the place, Linus had told him, as Orlando carried their bags down a narrow path to the long building where everyone slept in cool, tiny cells. "Oh, I didn't realize," Orlando remarked. "And I didn't realize you had been keeping in touch with that disgraced ex-seminarian," Linus responded. Orlando ignored his reply and pointed to the many plants sitting in rusted cans and plastic buckets along the path. "Look at all the flowers." "A riot of color," Linus observed. "Too messy," Orlando said. Linus chuckled. "Remember, you're here for praying, not designing." The tension eased.